Hi, Jewish mom. So I have a little bit of a surprise today. I was wearing the other week, I made a pep talk wearing a purple hat, and someone said, "Was that the hat that you bought before before I think last Pesach and that you wrote about?" And I said, "No, but this is it." So I wanted to show you for all of those of you, those of you who have been patiently waiting for an entire year to see the hat that I bought for last Pesach. It's this one, and I still wear it every Shabbat, no, almost every Shabbat. Okay, so I want to talk this week. Of course, I've been planning to talk about Pesach, but there's just a topic that's really been on my mind, and I feel like it's really something I need to talk about. So I want to talk about, I assume that all of us watching this, all of us have heard about the story about, no, I'm sure that everyone heard about all of, the calls, the bomb threats to the Jewish schools and JCCs in America and I think all over the world. And it kept people really nervous for several months around in Jewish communities around the world. And then the shocking discovery. Who was the caller? It wasn't some white supremacist. It was, or some sort of anti-Semite. In fact, it's a Jewish kid with American Israeli citizenship who lives in Ashkelon. So I will admit that when I first heard this news, my first instinct was, where were the parents? Where were the parents? Here's this 18-year-old kid apparently homeschooled for his entire life, and where were the parents? Like, what terrible parents. Where were you? Your son made over 1,000 calls to JCCs and Jewish schools and basically wreaked havoc around the world, and where were you? Okay. So yesterday I was reading about an interview that the mother of this caller gave to Israeli TV, and it made me see the situation very differently. She basically explained that her son, at a very young age, I guess that they moved to Israel when he was a young child, and he was diagnosed as autistic. And since then, also, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I think benign, now a malignant brain tumor, which really affects his behavior, affects his judgment. This is a child who the mother is a biochemist by profession, and when he was a young child, she realized that this is a child who cannot, like, there was no educational framework for him. So she actually left, she stopped working in order to commit herself to educating her only child, which I think is quite extraordinary. So basically for the past 12 years, she has been homeschooling him. So I think so you can say to yourself, like, where was she? Where was she? Like, her son's doing such terrible things and she doesn't even know. But what I think is that, so many mothers are given, challenging situations. I think all mothers are given certain challenges with their children. And really, like, something that I've learned from Rabbi Niven, and I think it's a I think it's, and this story, I think, really brings it out. It makes a very powerful point about it. Is that this mother really did her best. This mother, every step of the way, her son's autistic. After she had her son when she was 40. So after, years of working as a biochemist, she decided, okay, I'm going to devote myself to this boy. And you can say, okay, and then, after 12 years of dedicating herself to her son, b'mesirut nefesh, with great self-sacrifice to this very troubled son. So then what happens? Now he's going to jail. Now he's going to be sitting in jail for quite a long time, we can assume. And he did terrible things and really caused a lot of bad things to happen. But a lot of people to be worried and afraid and scared for their lives for quite a few months. But I think that but Rabbi Niven has taught me to think about it differently. That this is a mother who really every step of the way, she did her best. she took her next step, as Rabbi Niven would call it, in Avodat Hashem, her next step in serving Hashem, her next step, her next small step in doing the right thing and helping this troubled child. And that was definitely what this mother did. And the fact that then this child is now going to be going to jail at the age of 18, we can, probably that's what's going to happen. So it doesn't mean that the mother failed. The mother, every step of the way, she took her next step. If the story that we're hearing from her is true and accurate, and I don't have any reason to think it's not, that this mother, every step of the way, she took her next step in helping this very, very troubled child. And the fact that then the son turned out in such terrible condition, really, it doesn't have any effect on whether she succeeded or failed or anything. She succeeded. She took every step of the way, her next step, Avodat Hashem. And she did that every year that she stayed home with this kid and really gave him extra care and took him to different therapies and really invested in him and really tried to help him. And as much as she could, she succeeded. She's a huge success. She gets an A+. And the fact that the kid is very problematic has nothing to do with it. Okay, so I think that, for all of us, we have this tendency, we have a tendency to compare our children with other people's children. So Rabbi Niven was talking this week about the mother who says to herself, okay, look at my next door neighbor. My next door neighbor has 15 children, and they are all total tzaddikim, total perfect, righteous children. And look at me. I got 3 kids. One's got ADHD, is flunked out of school. One's off the derech, and one has terrible midot. One's really a nasty person, what? I'm the worst. I failed. Like in contrast with this mother next door with the 15 perfect children. Okay, and so Rabbi Niven just says he says, stop it. Stop right there. That is just not. It's not for us to be comparing and thinking, oh, they're perfect. And I'm this mother got an A+ and I flunked. Our job, the way that we get an A+ is just by taking our next step in Avodat Hashem, taking our next step with our challenging children. And I think a common thing I get a sense I get from talking with friends is that many of us have a child in this week, in the weeks coming up to Pesach, many of us have a child who doesn't help. The child who doesn't help, the child who only thinks about themselves, the child who's always reading or hanging out with friends, or the child who doesn't help. And I do all the work, and that child doesn't help. Okay, so I think that just as an example, how do you take your next step in Avodat Hashem with that child? It would be, I don't know, for different mothers it would be different things, and for different children it would be different things. But I think sometimes maybe try and find a way for that child to help. Maybe that child doesn't want to clean, but that child would like to paint the living room. And that child wouldn't like to clean, but that child would like to run to the dry cleaners for you, or run different errands for you, or watch the young children in the playground, or help you out in other ways. Something interesting that I want to mention. There's an interesting on this topic. So Adina Friedman gave an interesting idea in her. I'm taking her Power series this year. I'm 10 classes in, and it's very, very great. It's about achieving your dreams in life. I highly recommend it for next year. And so basically this week she was talking about a game called I Spy. So the game of I Spy means that when you look at your life and you think to yourself, think to yourself, I think that maybe some mothers are feeling this way, Erev Pesach, thinking, nobody helps me, I have to do all the work, nobody helps me, okay? And so I Spy would be taking this negative statement and saying the opposite to yourself. What would be the opposite? People help me, my family members help me. Okay, and then I Spy means that every time then when a family member helps you, that you say, my husband just took out the trash. My husband just brought home groceries for me. My child just offered to watch his younger sibling. Another child just offered to help out cleaning the fridge. And like looking at, all of a sudden you'll see, when you're looking for Dina Friedman's thesis is that when you look at the negative, there will be more negative, and when you're looking at the positive, there will be more positive. So I think that this also, like with the child who is the challenging child, and all of us have the challenging child or several challenging children. So I think like looking for the positive, taking our negative beliefs about that child, and then changing into a positive belief and looking for that and looking for the proofs of it. Okay, so in conclusion, regarding the mother of the child who was making the calls, threatening bomb threats to all the JCCs and shuls around the world, she didn't fail. She didn't fail. She kept her child home. She has a severely troubled child. And who has a very, very severe diagnosis, and clearly, like he's just not. I mean, the mother said he's just not in control of what he's doing, but she, every step of the way, even though she raised a son who basically is a criminal, doesn't mean that she failed. She's a success. She tried every step of the way to take her next step in serving Hashem and raising a good child and doing what she could with a severely troubled child. And for all of us, I think it's a really important reminder, with our children, to say to ourselves, okay, I have this child who's troubled in this way. What is the next thing I'm going to do? What is my next step in Avodat Hashem with this child? Just one more thing, like I was talking about the child who doesn't help for Pesach. Maybe it's just, if you can't get that child to help in any way, maybe your next step in Avodat Hashem is just accepting that child and trying to figure out in your heart how you can accept that child and love that child, even though they're not doing anything to help. Okay, maybe that's your next step in Avodat Hashem. And so I mentioned on that topic of all of us with our challenging children, trying this game that Dina Friedman calls I Spy, taking a negative belief that we have about our children or about the world, changing it into a positive belief, and then looking for evidence. And she guarantees that when you start doing that, you will see more and more and more evidence to support our positive beliefs. Okay, so on that note, this is definitely the last pep talk I'm making before Pesach, so I want to bless all of you with a Chag Kasher V'Sameach.